Hey there, welcome to The Long Take. On this episode, Ken and I are going to be talking about Pixar, or should I say Disney Pixar's latest animated film, Inside Out, starring Amy Poehler, amongst some others.
Bill Hader.
Right, Bill Hader, thank you, Ken.
Louis Black.
And the woman from The Office.
Phil Smith.
So, how you doing, Ken?
Hey, yeah, I mean, I guess that's how you want to introduce me on this show. I am the co-host. Okay, you didn't introduce yourself. That was Justyn who spoke just before. You might not
it would
have
be
realized.
nice for me to introduce myself. Don't you think it's kind of like, oh, my name's Justyn.
I don't know. I feel like if you don't introduce yourself, no one knows who you are.
At this point, I think our loyal fans know who I am.
Yeah, but we have such similar sounding voices that I would... look, this is just standard podcast rules. As you know, podcasts are a legitimate medium now that Obama has appeared on Mark Maron
Did you listen to
podcast.
that?
So this is serious. I listened to that.
Yeah, me too.
I listened to it. So, I mean, if Obama can do it, you can do it, I can do it. It's legitimate now. So it's okay. That's how I felt about him being on there. I felt good about that. Man, eventually he's going to be on this podcast.
We're still trying to reach out to him.
Talking about the movies, talking about the Iran deal. What's going on with that? We're totally going to talk about that with him.
We should get him on the show.
I know Justyn does a pretty good impression of Obama, actually. I don't know if you wanted to...
Look.
Oh my god, that's great. Right there. That's good.
Ken?
Yes?
I just want to say,
Yes,
it's a great pleasure to be here on the show with you and with Justyn. Very attractive young man. And I don't want to interject for too long because I know you got a show to do, but I just want to say you're doing a great job. Michelle and I love the show, and I got to go.
God, he's so smooth when he talks. You want to listen to him all day, you know?
He just came into my room real quick. And see you later, Mr. President. You gotta go.
Come to my window. I don't know. Yeah, I see a window in your room. Obama. It just fits. Yeah. You know. It was funny how, I mean, not to get too off track, it was funny how after that whole interview, the one thing everyone took from that interview was that he said a certain word. That was it. That was the only thing. And I was thinking, like, because Mark Maron was obviously cool about it, because in the context, it was totally fine. But, like, could you imagine if he was talking to a Fox News correspondent and he dropped that word?
Well,
do you think
I don't think he would, because... I mean, obviously he wouldn't, but, you know, you're in some guy's garage. I don't know, like... I don't even think at this point he cares. He's got a year left, you know. He doesn't have, like, he didn't do anything wrong. But they totally blew it out of proportion on TV. And to make it seem like he says all this stuff. He talks for over an hour with this guy, and they're just talking back and forth, and he's saying some just really profound things about just how he thinks, and where he's come from, and how he is, you know, with his relationship with his wife, and what it's like for a relatively young guy to be president and talk about it, is amazing. I thought it was fascinating. I listened to it, just soaked it up like a sponge. And then for people to just be like, oh, you said, you know, it's like, really? But, I mean, you can't be surprised with, like, that's just what Fox News does. You know what I mean?
I know. That's what I'm saying, though. Just like, if it was anybody else, would they be like, whoa, hold the phone. Excuse me, Mr. President, what did you just say? Excuse me? You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't do that. But then out in the news next minute, they're like, oh my god, the president said a word. And in context, it's totally fine, but we're taking it out of context. And take that context right out. Who needs context? We don't. That's what it seems like. So yeah, I would say that President Obama's appearance on Mark Maron's show is one of the best WTF podcast episodes of all time. Second to Louis. Second to Louis.
His interview with Louis is great. But that guy, I don't know. He struggled like as a comedian for a long time to get fame. Or just to be a success, and then he's totally found this new way, and like this is just working for him. He's already got 2 classic interviews between Louis and the president, and like I don't know. I listen to usually I subscribe, and you know if there's somebody that I'm not necessarily interested in, I won't listen. But everything that I've ever listened to of his, it's just really great. It's just really great. The guy's really good at what he does.
He did an interesting interview with Carlos Mencia. Did you?
I didn't hear that one.
Because you remember when Carlos Mencia had the whole controversy about him stealing jokes, and like he kind of addressed all that in the episode, and trying to like come clean and saying that he didn't really steal jokes, and then Mark Maron had these Latino comics come on his show. Who totally ripped Carlos Mencia a new one.
Was this after Mencia left, or while he was still there?
Yeah, well, it was because there was inconsistencies with what he was telling Mark Maron. So Mark Maron brought in these comedians that knew Carlos Mencia before he broke it big, and saying he was stealing jokes even then. He stole jokes over a comedian who died. Like, after the guy died, he stole his jokes, like, awful things. And then, like, he invited Carlos Mencia to refute those claims, and he came back on the show, and... It was pretty interesting. It's pretty good stuff.
When was this, though? Not recently, right?
A couple of years ago. 2012-ish?
Yeah, Mencia, like, he's just not even a thing anymore.
I know. But you know who is a thing? Louis Black. And he appears in voice form in Inside Out, which is a Pixar movie that came out last month. Did great business. And
we're here to talk about
was that the best transition of all time?
Good segue. Inside Out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's talk about it, man. What did you think about it?
I really enjoyed Inside Out. You know, I was thinking about it, and it's been quite a while since a Pixar movie came out, and after I finished watching it, I was like, wow, this is probably going to be one of the best movies of the year. Come year end, I was thinking, what was the last movie last movie of Pixar's that I felt that way, and it was Toy Story 3. That was 5 years ago, when I was like, wow, that was a great animated movie. 5 years ago since then, and so that feeling is so unique because you don't really get that usually when you're watching an animated movie, other than like Pixar and maybe a couple of DreamWorks movies, or a couple of like. Disney Disney's other animated movies in the past, but to see Inside Out, to see Pixar in top form again was really something to watch. It was really it was kind of thrilling to really see them take on this concept, which is really abstract, and lay it out as clearly as possible, and to have those really two halves of in the movie. They have the one half is of this girl and what she's going through, and then the other half is what's going on inside her mind. And I thought it was blended as well as they could have done it, bearing in mind that this is a movie primarily for kids.
Right.
So I mean, that's a lot of juggling that you have to go through as a storyteller to try and tell this story. Bringing in this abstract concept, and yet telling it clearly that everyone can understand it, even kids. But I think what is interesting, though, is that when you think about it, kids probably are the first ones to understand that. If you tell them there's this little girl you look inside her brain, these are her feelings, and this is anger, and this is joy, yada yada yada. They're probably the first ones to accept it. Like, okay, yeah, I can go with that story because like they're kids.
It's not that hard so of a reach, or like that significant of a reach for a kid to be like, yeah, like joy would be this happy feeling, and sadness would be this blue thing with the turtleneck and the glasses drooping around over there.
What's unfortunate is that I mean, there's two things here. It's unfortunate that I saw this movie at the age of 27. I wonder if I watched this at the age of 12. Just I love the movie as my age,
right.
But if I had seen this at age 12 or age 11 or age 10, like it would have blown. I think it would have blown my mind if I saw this because of how they kind of nailed. There just really aren't any kids movies that nail what it's like to be a kid like that. You know what I mean? To really nail, at least try to go down that avenue, and like to really be like, wow, this movie actually speaks to me as a kid. That would have been something. However, as someone who's a father, even though I'm not like I'm father of a young child. Are you falling asleep? No. Even though I'm a father of a young child, it's still kind of interesting. I had that perspective, so that was a positive thing. But I really would wonder what it would have been like if I had seen this movie as a kid, because I think it would have been even more mind-blowing.
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, I think you're onto something there, because I mean, I saw Toy Story when I was a kid, just like you did, and the way that movie resonated with me as a kid is not the same that it would have resonated with an adult. That being said, I really enjoyed Inside Out, but yeah, I totally agree with you. If I was to have seen Inside Out the same age that I saw Toy Story, or around that age, I probably would have just taken that like that's what happens. That's how the feelings work. Like yeah, it would have just hit me like that. That's just like that's a testament to just Pixar, and when they nail it, like you said, they nailed it. They really did nail it. When they really do it right, it just proves how much better they are as a studio of like making these movies than really, everybody else is just like imitating them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and just on a conceptual level, I thought this movie was really impressive and funny. Once you bring in these conceptual ideas, there's a lot that they were able to work with. And it was like an animated Pixar version of like Being John Malkovich. It really was like I came away thinking like this is like a Charlie Kaufman adaptation, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, like Pixar version of that, like kind of trying to do something like that, because especially when Joy winds up being in what's the main character's, what's the girl's name?
Riley.
But the girl's Riley. Yeah, Riley's long-term memory, and she has to get back to the headquarters, and she's there with Sadness, and then they come across Bing Bong, right? Is that his name?
The
Bing Bong?
imaginary friend, yeah.
And he's like, we should take this shortcut to the train station.
Amazing.
And that was just such an awesome sequence, especially when they become abstract ideas and they're just like shapes, and they're like, oh no, we can barely make it through. Like, just that was so funny to me, and I and at least that part, I'm like, there's no way kids can completely.
Yeah, that's for the adults to appreciate, really.
Yeah, that was some great stuff. And actually, I saw some Twitter users kind of like bemoaning the existence of Bing Bong, and I thought Bing Bong was great. I liked that character. They claimed him as a Deus Ex Machina, because he just kind of appeared out of nowhere
and helped
and
them
then saved the day. But I mean, it's in her mind. Like, you can kind of get away with that stuff.
With a kid who's struggling with growing up, and then you're encountering like a relic from her childhood. So it makes sense. Like she has to let him go, and he winds up being forgotten, right, in that pit. And that's kind of like just what are you laughing about?
Oh my god! Stuff is coming back to me now about that movie, and probably this is probably one of the funniest moments in Pixar in a long time. if not one of the funniest moments, is when they're trying to wake Riley up. And it's already great, like the whole production of the dream
world,
production.
Like
But then they try to wake up the giant clown, and it's just madness. It's just chaos. And then at one point, like Bing Bong's like, "Hello, Riley. It's Bing Bong. It's your friend." Like, and she's like, "Oh," like she's asleep. And then she finally wakes up. But it's like, but we gotta be the most disturbing dream that she could possibly have at that point. Because all this stuff's going on, this clown coming in and all that, and all of a sudden you just see her imaginary friend from God knows how long ago, and he's like, "Hi."
That she totally forgot she had, right? This guy.
Yeah. It's Bing Bong.
It kind of makes you wonder, like, when you ever wake up from a just really, really twisted dream. You know?
And then you had Bill Hader in Headquarters, like as Fear.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like completely has no idea what's going on. That made me. I almost pissed my pants. That was hilarious. That was absolutely. I was so floored by that scene. It was just so hilarious because it was set up so perfectly, you know. And then they just absolute chaos follows. I thought it was just that was definitely a high point. And that's the thing is, like, you know, with like some Pixar films, you know, you have your setup, right? Let's say you have a really neat concept, or you have like something where it's like Brave, which I think is a lesser Pixar film, where, you know, you have this, you know, she was a princess, right? The red-headed princess, you know. And you're kind of getting into this whole like fairy tale aspect of it, but then the whole middle part of Brave is like she turns her mother into a bear, and then it's like she's a bear, and then like she has to go through being a bear, and then you know, at the end she's no longer a bear. But like the whole middle part, I feel like when Pixar is not working, it's because it's the middle. It's like that middle part is just not quite. When Pixar's not working, you know what I mean. You're just kind of like, I'm not quite into this. But like with Inside Out, because with Inside Out, like you kind of spend a good amount of time with joy and sadness being in long-term memory.
Yeah. And I thought that get more of them in Headquarters, you know, being part of that group, and then, you know, relatively quickly they're off on their own. Right.
So that could have easily. It was sort of like Up, where Up had like the high in the beginning, and then, like, you know, once the next door neighbor comes and they float to South America and yada yada. It has a tendency to drag a little bit. I still think Up's a great film, but like it still had the tendency to drag a little bit, which is funny because Up was the last movie Pete Docter, who directed Inside Out, that was the last one he made. But I think here he did a great job with keeping that second act, that's the middle part of the movie, keeping it going, keeping it funny and interesting to where we get to the big emotional finale. And I got to tell you, Justin, we bemoan sequels and all that, but if Pixar had to make a sequel to any movie, Inside Out feels so ripe for sequel potential. Just as soon as they introduced the puberty button at the very end, I was like, that's Inside Out 2 right there. Like, you can't just introduce that and not try it in the second movie. Because, and I'll finish my point really quick, but because I liked the movie, in my review I gave it an A-, and a key thing is I feel like story-wise, like Riley's story itself unfortunately kind of gets the short shaft because we spend so much time in long-term memory. What do you think?
Well, I think that that's true. We are spending more time, you know, focused in on her emotions than we are on her. But at the same time, I think they did a good job when they made this movie of letting us know what, like, the ramifications of what's going on inside her head are on the actual girl. You know, where she is in the, you know, there's that moment where it's kind of a big moment, at least it was for me, because it it kind of like shows like growing up, you some of the same things when you're a kid aren't especially more, like when Goofball Island came crumbling down, and like all those memories of like, you know, playing around and being silly just went away. And then her dad comes to her and is like trying to make her laugh or whatever, and she's just looking at him like, no, this doesn't work for me anymore. And that's growing up, and that's like one of the sad parts of growing up, is because you lose a little bit of yourself and what you know, you lose your viewpoints of, you know, of the world, so to, you know, sometimes. So I appreciated that when they would do something and then they'd show like the cause and effect of that. Going back, you know, onto Riley and where she was and what ultimately led to her running away. What else did I want to say? We're talking about, oh yeah, how you'd totally be up for a sequel. I agree, because even though we spent a lot of time with Joy, with Amy Poehler doing Joy and Phyllis Smith as Sadness, it still left me wanting more. You know, I feel like we only scratched the surface of these characters, and the mind is a very complex thing. It's the most complex thing, and we're dealing with a child who's growing up. It's only going to get more complicated, and we could totally have more. Bill Hader's an incredibly talented actor, voice actor. We could have more fear. You know, what's happening to my body? You know, how am I changing? Anger. Lewis Black and Mindy Kaling. Forgetting about her, the voice of disgust. So, and then there are other emotions that are going to come into play too, like you know, being attracted to boys and stuff like that. That was kind of funny. The I would die for Riley.
That factory thing.
Yeah. Just really funny stuff. I gotta see it again. I really want to see it again. Which I guess I haven't said that about a movie in a while. You know, that I really just looking forward to seeing it again once it comes out.
Yeah, and I think we should talk a little bit about like because I think what makes Inside Out so strong, and again another pillar, I should say, of a great Pixar films is that the
Pixar film, you're allowed to call it a pillar.
A pillar of Pixar is thematically it's absolutely on point. What the revelation is with Riley and with what Joy has with sadness, and realizing that sadness is a key component of the four emotions, probably the most important one, if anything, in order for them to really be complete. In order for Riley to be complete, sadness is absolutely a key part of that. And you know, Joy spends a lot of the movie kind of shutting sadness out
and isolate her, so, get her out of the way.
There's so much, I think, meaning to that. You know, the idea that Joy keeps trying to push sadness away, and someone wrote a thing. There's think pieces and essays all the time, so it's hard to keep track. But I remember someone writing a thing at the time about how it's wrong that Joy would be in control of Riley. That's how Disney of it to be. That it's wrong that like she's predominantly controlled by Joy, and I think that's stupid. Like that's just like it's a weird thing to complain about, because I mean, at least as I was a kid, I don't know how awful other people's childhoods were. I mean, I went through a divorce and stuff like that as a kid. But if Joy wasn't like my primary feeling, who knows what the hell would have happened to me? You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that it's probably supposed to be the key feeling of control of everything, because if the primary feeling is sadness, and like I wouldn't expect Pixar to be in charge of like exploring depression. Like that's a really deep and complex thing to try to explore. It'd be like to have sadness being in charge of Riley, because all of a sudden we're going to have this movie about like the perils of depression, and I don't expect Pixar to even try to do that.
That's a little ridiculous to me. Dealing with children, unless you really have like unfortunate circumstances, you're going to be happy as a child, because like every attempt is to keep a baby happy. A baby's crying, you want it to stop crying. You take your baby around. Oh, people want to pick your baby up. You grow up, and you grow up into a happy world where like your mom and your dad are everything, and they provide for you, and you don't have to do anything. And then the more that that goes away, that's like when you realize that there's it's not as great as I thought it was. And like that's just part of growing up, and that's why I thought it was really cool that they had sadness be the part that gets embraced, like the emotion that gets embraced toward the end, so that she can take sadness and have it not be a negative thing, because all the emotions are important.
I thought it was telling that, like, when we took a brief look into like the mother's mind, and she was controlled, I think, by someone that resembled sadness. Yeah. I think. And then we looked into the dad's mind, and he was controlled by someone that resembled anger.
That's
largely
true.
like I
forgot about
perhaps
that.
through the course of time, eventually maybe something else takes over. Maybe when you're a kid, you're probably going to be controlled by joy largely. That's probably. I mean, I feel like I was probably controlled by the feeling of joy. Like I was like my base level, like contentment. I think joy kind of ties into that.
Kid, it's all about like satisfying, whatever stimulates you. You go out and you play. You know what I mean? You're interested in something. You want to go. You climb a tree. Whatever you want to do, you do it within the realms of like what is safe. But you don't have to. Like, fear doesn't have to be in control. Anger doesn't have to be in control, because you're a kid. What do you have to worry about? That's why, like, you look at the father and the mother. They grow up, different things, different circumstances. Different people in the driver's seat. I think that person's a little weird for making that into a story.
He kind of wrote like this really scathing critique about the movie, and it's funny because he's like this. He's never going to hear this, obviously, but he's like this. He's like old. He has this big beard, and I just imagine this old man like. Right. In the movie theater, just being like, this fucking movie, like just so angry about this movie because no, this is not how it's going to happen. This is wrong. Like, just completely upset about what he's watching. That's what I read it and I was like, huh? Then I took another look at like his little picture and I was like, yeah, okay, you know what I mean? Like that's just too perfect. And it's not to like really attack anybody for not liking the movie. There's not like it's not without it minor. I consider it minor problems, but I would have to say Inside Out is unequivocally a success. I think it's like it's kind of an idea that almost writes itself. You're like, once you're like, it's this girl, she has these emotions. Joy conflicts with sadness, but then realizes that she needs sadness. Riley needs sadness into her life. Boom, that's the movie. And I kind of like that. I like when because it's a really simple thread, right? And it's like once you realize what your movie is, you can do a lot of things with it. You don't have to worry so much about what this movie's supposed to be or what it's trying to be. Once you already know what the movie is and what it's trying to be, like everything else is kind of smooth sailing from there. And I think that's why I felt like Inside Out was such a smooth film, you just kind of glided with it. You just kind of like, I felt like I was kind of on like a version of Cloud 9. You're just kind of in the movie a little bit because you know what's going to happen, you know what's coming. Not like plot wise, but you kind of understand what's going on with this film, generally speaking, and you're able to just enjoy watching it and enjoying aspects of it. And then you come away from the movie and like you step on something and you're like, oh my god, my fear emotion just deactivated or something like that. I don't know. That was a thing for me for like 2 days, and I forgot about it. Oh no, my sadness emotion's taking over. And 2 days afterwards, I was over that. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'd like to do now that we're talking about Inside Out and Pixar. I'd like to kind of go back and kind of maybe not rank all of them, because at this point there's kind of a lot of them, but just pick your favorites. Like top 5 Pixar movies or something like that.
Well, let me ask you this though. Here's my $1 million question.
Okay.
Did Inside Out make you cry?
I'm trying to remember now. I think I did. I think I welled up a little bit of tears, and I can't remember what part of the movie it was, but yeah, I think toward the end I was getting a little emotional. Yeah.
I was getting kind of emotional just like in the beginning when you saw Riley grow up, and like just Joy watching her, and like just that whole thing. That was kind of like an emotional thing. But especially when she comes back from running away, she comes back and they had that very deep, heartfelt talk between. She has that with her parents, and allowing
when she finally
and at that point
admits that that's the moment.
That was quite something. And like, you're trying to fight the tears, and you're like, God damn it, you know, like, but yeah, it was one of the, again, that's why I asked, because it's like it had a couple of moments where you're just like, it's almost impossible not to feel anything about a scene like that. So yeah, I mean, and I feel like tying it into Pixar, I feel like that's really what Pixar does. It's like it gives you like this really great feeling watching it, and then like it breaks into sentimental, and you like allow it. Like there's there's parts of me like when I'm watching a movie and like the sentimental parts coming, like, oh come on, like. But Pixar kind of gets away with it because they just find this right blend, and like you stop being so insecure about whether or not you're going to feel something. You know what I mean? You just kind of just let it.
Go with it.
Yeah. As far as my favorites, I still haven't seen The Incredibles. That's the only Pixar movie I have not seen. I really hope I see it soon. But yeah, other than The Incredibles, which I haven't seen, I gotta say my favorite Pixar movie up to this point still is Ratatouille, which is not everyone's favorite. But I think story-wise, I think it's the most complete and the most satisfying and the most fun world to kind of delve into was Ratatouille. I just love, I love the characters. I love, the rat. Remy, yeah, voiced by Patton Oswalt. I like the French setting. I like the monologue at the end about criticism. I thought it was very profound in some ways, but I also thought if anything, it wasn't really trying to be all that sentimental. Like I just felt like it was a fun, good story that had like heartfelt moments at the end and here and there. And I liked the villain was silly and fun. He's kind of an idiot, always getting foiled by this main character, by the main character. And I just like the concept of the rat kind of controlling the cook.
The mustache,
yeah. I really like the concept. I like the concept as it was playing out. I remember when like the previews came out, you're like, really, rats in the kitchen?
I didn't have that very high hopes for it either. Yeah.
But then you watch it, and it's just that was Brad Bird. He also did Incredibles, which I haven't seen, but that's Brad Bird. And what I have seen of Brad Bird is The Iron Giant, which is not Pixar, but which is one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best animated movies of all time.
Share that opinion.
Is Iron Giant, and it made an incredible movie with that. But the Ratatouille just feels like it's very different than Iron Giant because it's just purely funny. It's a good story. It's a great story, and I just really like diving into that world with those characters. And it's funny because Ratatouille was followed by WALL-E, Up, and Toy Story 3. That was like the most incredible run that they ever had.
All those movies.
And you can make cases for WALL-E and Up and Toy Story 3, but for me, I've watched Ratatouille more than the other ones, and there's those moments like visually when you have like when Remy is kind of crawling up and around like through sewers, through like those shots. I just even in anime, I was really impressed by the way that was kind of worked out. How like very particular those little shots were, because you kind of follow the rat as it goes through these little things, and I kind of like stuff like that. I like something that's really visually interesting like
and
that.
Taking you somewhere that you would never otherwise be able to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's your reasons, I totally agree with you. Ratatouille is way up on my list, beaten only by Toy Story because that's the one. Okay. That's the first one, And that movie, we're kind of lucky that we were of age to see that movie when it came out. It came out 95, I want to say. So yeah, that's we're still little kids and we're watching just for us to be given that at that time, perfect. And toys coming to life. I'm all along for the ride. That was a great story. Everybody's seen Toy Story, so I don't really need to talk about it. But other than Toy Story and Ratatouille, Finding Nemo's up there for me.
Okay.
Talking about like how just the middle of Brave kind of took you out of it. The pacing in Finding Nemo, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'd be curious to see it again, just to like look at it kind of critically, because I never felt bored watching that as a kid. I felt like it just worked. Other than Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, which I'm not going to talk about because you haven't seen it. You got to go see it.
Okay, please don't you dare.
Really good though. You really gotta make it a point to see that. And
I think I do.
And
yeah.
Wall-E is.
I think I do.
Wall-E is my number.
Wall-E is great. When that was the difference, was that like the previews for Wall-E, I was like, I was going to be 21 that year, but I remember seeing the previews for Wall-E. I'm like, wow, this is going to be some crazy shit. Like I was really pumped for Wall-E, and I thought that it was a great movie, but it was almost like I was too hyped. Like I was like, it was the first time because I saw Ratatouille, I really liked it, and because it's just a thing, right? Because like the mid 2000s and what have you, when you realize, wow, Pixar, other than like maybe Cars, Pixar hasn't really made a bad movie yet. Like you said, like and this is like becoming an adult, and you're realizing this, and you're like, is it okay if I go see Wall-E? Is it okay? As someone who's becoming 21 years old, that I still like these movies, and with like after Wall-E and Up, and then Toy Story 3, I was like, you know what, fuck it, this is Pixar, they're awesome, I'm in for the ride, and you can just accept the fact that the kid part of you will always be there when it comes to Pixar. But yeah, Wall-E, I remember just being so amped for that movie because the previews are so good. Just you're like, oh my god, because you realize there's not going to be
all
any
that stuff, like just Wall-E alone, right, on Earth, just sorting and stacking, and he's like the last thing on Earth. And
you're just like, how are they going to pull this off? Like, make it appealing to kids and everything like that? Because it was appealing to me. I was like, I want this wordless sci-fi type of interesting adventure. And then I remember that was like 2008. And people were kind of like, how dare they, with like that final third of the film when like everyone's like not moving and just kind of moving around and motorized things and like they're fat. And like it was a total commentary about like American society and capitalist society and global warming and all that. It was all in there, and people were pissed off. And that's kind of awesome. But yeah, I put Ratatouille above it still. But Wall-E might be the most ambitious Pixar movie. I think it's far and away the most ambitious idea and concept, and I think they pulled it off mostly, like almost 100%.
The first like 15 minutes of it is a silent movie.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of it has this kind of beautiful silence to it that's really impressive. And then after that, you're like. Because we'll go back a little bit, but like after a while, you're like, how are they even going to top that? Because at the time, Wall-E, I was like, Wall-E's the best. It took me a couple of viewings of Ratatouille, and I was like, no, wait, I like Ratatouille more. Wall-E might be the best, but I like Ratatouille more. And then you're like, but how are they going to top Wall-E? I remember like, how is Wall-E better be nominated for Best Picture? There was those types of conversations because The Dark Knight came out and Wall-E came out in 2008, and like the Best Picture nominations came out and neither were included, and it was like what? And then 2009 you get 10 nominations and you had Up included in there, and then like almost every year
Pixar's been
you had like a
movie.
Almost. I think that might not be true. Yeah, but yeah, they followed it with Up. And yeah, that again, they kind of like they didn't top themselves, but then they did come out with something that really is superior animated filmmaking.
Sure.
And you had that 4-minute montage
in the beginning
with
some heavy
Jesus.
Content. And you made a pretty good point before. Like, I'm not looking at these movies from the perspective of a child. We grew up with Pixar, so I've just kind of taken that for granted because like as I've grown, they've improved and gotten more ambitious and just done these really great things. But there are kids that are watching these movies and loving them, probably way more than I am, you know? And you're dealing with something like a wife gets sick and dies, and that's what makes the grumpy old guy in the neighborhood the way that he is, you know? And maybe, like, I don't know, a kid sees that, and then they see, like, the grumpy guy in the neighborhood who doesn't talk to anybody or like anybody, and they're like, oh, you know, he's probably got a reason for that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what, since they're all recent in my brain, let's just go to... Because after Up was Toy Story 3. And, again, like, Toy Story 3... I remember watching it, and I'm like, wow, this might be, like, Toy Story, like, the trilogy. You have to start talking about, like, this trilogy is, like, one of the best trilogies there are, because when we talk about a lot of trilogies, there's, like, the one movie that doesn't quite work. And honestly, Toy Story 2, in a lot of ways, is an improvement with Toy Story. Because Toy Story is very basic. It's a very basic story. Yeah. And Toy Story 2, even though it kind of has a lot of the same elements as Toy Story 1, it has, like, it's so well paced, and it's such a great kinetic type film, and then it really works. And then critically acclaimed, just as critically acclaimed as first Toy Story. And then Toy Story 3 comes out, and it's probably the most emotionally engaging Toy Story film, probably the most emotionally engaging Pixar movie, at least until Inside Out came out. Just because, you know, this is the first time you're dealing with, like, a teenage character who's moving away, and these toys that have been attached to him for this long time, and it's such an obvious thing that you're connected with. It's so, like, sneaky of Pixar, because everyone who's really watching Toy Story 3 were kids when Toy Story 1 came out. Like,
Woody and Buzz just as much as Andy did.
Mm-hmm. And even kids watching Toy Story 3, they'll probably appreciate the movie, but they not quite appreciate it the way we did, you know, because we were the perfect age for it, because we were 22. We were, like, you know, either past college or doing our thing. We were growing up. We were finally becoming adults, and so that stuff really resonated with people my age. You know, people our age. And you know, at the end, when you think that they're actually going to die, there's a brief second you're like, we're going to in the theater when they die,
right?
Yeah, so many great things about Toy Story 3. And I think I put that was my first year, like, writing about movies, and I put that in my top 5 of that year. Toy Story 3. That was the last Pixar movie that I considered to be that on that level. I kind of avoided. I lie. I haven't seen Cars 2.
Neither have I.
Either. I have no.
I don't even, like. I'm sure I've heard about, like, the general, like, plot of Cars 2, but yeah, I don't even know what is it about. I don't even know.
I don't know. I only saw Cars, the first Cars, once, and it was because, like, I was at, like, a house where there was kids and they were watching Cars, and, you know, I guess I have to watch Cars now.
I saw it once, and it was because I was kind of on a date, and the girl put it on. So otherwise, I would have never seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and Cars is kind of like, you know, it's like a that's not even necessary, but it's like, it's such a cash cow for them, for Pixar, because of the merchandising, and at least in the South, it goes like gangbusters in the South. They love that. It's almost stereotypical, but they don't really care if they meet the stereotypes, I don't think, because it really just seems like the South loves cars. Like, that's like Pixar appealing to the South. The Cale guy voices one of the characters.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's for that crowd.
Did you?
I guess.
You see we already talked about Brave, so we can skip over Brave, I guess.
Yeah.
But Cars 2, Monsters University. Did you see that? I didn't see that.
I saw that in theaters when it came out, and then I saw it fairly recently, actually, on TV, just like a month ago. Right after I watched Inside Out, I was like, "Oh, Monsters University's on." It's kind of. It almost feels like sitcom-y. It's an okay movie. It's a good movie. It's a solid movie, but it has like this kind of like sitcom-y feel to it. It's not really like, it doesn't really have like the plot doesn't really set things in motion. You know what I mean? It's not really like a charging type film like the best Pixar movies, where it's like always kind of like in motion, always kind of like has a purpose, you know. Whereas Monsters University, it's more like I think maybe laid back. I guess I don't really know how you would describe it, but it's kind of like takes things down a notch as far as like an important story is concerned. It's not really trying to be emotionally engaging, just trying to be a fun.
Is it kind of like 21 Jump Street because you've got like the geek, Mike Wazowski's the geek, and then Sully's like the cool guy?
I suppose, yeah. I suppose it's a little bit like that.
Did it have those like comedy elements though, like where they have to like help each other out?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. They're kind of like these. They're on odds with each other at first, but then they went up joining the same frat, and they do these series of competitions in order to become something. I don't know. I can't remember exactly.
I'll have to check it out.
Like because they're majoring in Scream or whatever. Like the whole like
that's the thing. I didn't see Monsters U, but like I know what the general premise is. Like they go to college, and
exactly. I gotta say that element was pretty amusing. The Pixar's version of college, it is pretty.
They're really
it's pretty
great
amusing.
world builders. Those guys. They just they create a world, put a movie in it, and take it.
I would say what's enjoyable about Monsters University is the little things. Like if you're not really concerned about watching, I think I was able to enjoy it a little bit more second time, while also accepting this isn't really a good. It's a good movie, but not much more than that. I accepted that, and then I was able to enjoy the little things about it that really little jokes, little character. There's one character that's a snail that's trying to make it to class. And at the very end of the movie, after the credits, the snail finally gets to the classroom, but it's like a year later. He's like, "Oh man!" Just stuff like that is pretty. Yeah,
that you can chuckle at later.
Yeah,
that's nice. Huh?
But yeah, so between Toy Story 3, you had Cars 2, Brave, Monsters U. You finally get to Inside Out, and it's kind of a jolt back into the system. If you remind yourself that Pixar can still make great movies. You know, I'm glad they came back with this. You know, it feels good to have a great Pixar movie out in the world. You know what I mean?
The world feels right again.
But yeah, it's interesting because like the first few Pixar movies, Toy Story 2, A Bug's Life. Bug's Life is pretty solid. Monsters Inc. and then Finding Nemo. And then Cars, and Incredibles, and then Cars. They kind of set the tone, set the standard of like the ones to follow. I feel like they had like interesting concepts and they were funny, but I would say that between Ratatouille and Toy Story 3, with Up and Wall-E in the middle, you can't really compete with that. Between Ratatouille in 2007 and Toy Story 3, that's just such a great block of movies, with Pixar really just becoming like artistically just superior, just really coming out with these stories. With a lot of directors, like it's like their second or third go around with Pixar, so they're really kind of getting the feel for it, and they really just where just DreamWorks is like doing like Shrek 5, like. Pixar was like really just coming out with these original stories, except for Toy Story 3.
Challenging themselves.
But even then, Toy Story 3, they were able to come at that story in an original way. So yeah, I mean, and like if you just forget the following 5 years and jump right to Inside Out, like that it feels like a continuation of that late 2000s period of Pixar. That's what Inside Out
Pixar
felt
has
to
that
me.
other studios don't have, like DreamWorks or the Disney animated studios now. They've got this kind of like a revolving door of like these just really great directors who come in. Dr. Lasseter and
Stanton,
Bird.
right?
And Andrew
Brad
Stanton,
Bird and Stanton.
Right. They've got just like these guys that. All right, now it's my turn to make a movie. And then you're on deck, top that. So I feel like they're competing with each other a little bit. And it's just really nice to see. And like I always get excited when Pixar comes out with the new trailer. I think the trailer for their next movie just came out today. The Good Dinosaur.
Actually, I haven't watched the full trailer for it. Yeah, I saw the teaser a while back.
What if dinosaurs?
I haven't.
Extinct, right? I feel like all their movies felt like all their concepts are built on a question. Like, what if toys came to life?
Yeah.
You know, what if dinosaurs?
What if bugs could talk? I do. Oh my god! There's that one last thing, right? Because I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. There was this thing passed around because there's someone broke down Pixar movies where it was like Toy Story is about what if toys had feelings. A Bug's Life is what if bugs had feelings. Monsters Inc. is what if monsters had feelings. Finding Nemo is what if fish had feelings. Cars is what if cars had feelings. What if rats had feelings? What if robots had feelings? What if old people had feelings? What if and then what if feelings had feelings was for Inside Out.
Yeah, I saw that.
And which is it's pretty funny, but
a little reductive.
I mean, it's quite a bit. That's what I did. I'm like a bit reductive, a little bit. But I feel like people. How do you get like jaded about Pixar? I mean, especially if they're like coming back with something that's good. Like that's the point. Is that like, yeah, they have a very clear formula. There's a Pixar formula and it works for them. You can't begrudge a studio that makes primarily family/kids films. You can't really begrudge them for making formula, like for having a formula. Like that's. What do you really expect from people who make kids movies? Like, isn't the fact that they take those formulas and do something interesting with them enough for you? Like it's
to the point where like you can get something of enjoyment out of it at the same time as a kid. To be able to take your kid to a movie and enjoy the movie as much as they're enjoying it. That's special, and I look at Pixar in like a whole another league than I look at a lot of these other studios that make movies, not even just animated movies. Like, I know that when Pixar comes out with something, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be great.
That's kind of interesting. Can you think of a non-Pixar animated movie, computer-generated animated movie? You can include Disney too. That really that has really impressed you in the last like 5 years. That like you're like, wow, this is actually good animated. This is kind of stepping up to Pixar a little bit, but
Frozen's the one that comes to mind. But like, that's the one that's been it's just insanely popular.
Yeah.
But I watched it and I didn't get that.
There are aspects of it that I didn't really enjoy. The songs are absolutely incredible, and obviously kids are going to love the movie because the songs are great. But story wise,
Pixar doesn't really rely on though. Like they always have they sometimes have a great Randy Newman song in there. But there's music is a big part of it, but it's not like a sing-along type thing or a musical.
Mm-hmm. But even then, if you think about like even like with The Lion King or Aladdin, when Disney had that run in the 90s, Little Mermaid, even though those stories were incredibly simple, like they work. They're really solid and tight. And Frozen, in a lot of ways, is a solid and tight movie, but like there are some clear things about it. Cause I recently saw The Lion King not too long ago, and I was like, this is still a pretty damn good movie. I saw
it in Broadway. Even Janet to go see it, and it really made me want to watch the movie again. Like it reminded me how much I loved that as a kid. I loved that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is a great movie. Like, the opening sequence is just like. I watched it in 3D back when it was like 2010 or 2011. Yeah, they released it, and I'm like, 3D. Like you're kind of like, I wasn't quite hating 3D yet. I was kind of like, we'll see. I didn't really add anything to the movie 3D, but I did get to watch it again.
Where,
that was
they're all
cool.
gathering, all the animals are gathering to see Simba lifted. Dude, I cried. In the theater at the show because it was so emotional, so nostalgic, and it's like this is a big moment, like everybody's getting together for the kid, for Simba. I don't know.
Like they were really going for something big. At least with I haven't seen the Broadway show. They were really going for something like epic with the movie. Like at least the beginning, because you had the African, in the circle of life going on, and then you had like. Little Simba up in the mountain, and then boom, Lion King.
There's this little baby who doesn't even really get it. He doesn't even get it. He's just looking at all this stuff. Everybody's here for me. What's going on? And then
and the music is swelling, and the circle of life. Boom. And there's actually there's actually like a bass drum when the title card comes up. It's like boom, The Lion King. And watching it as an adult, I was like, holy shit! Like I saw that as a kid. Like was I like this when I was a kid? Like how did I react? I couldn't remember because like that was the opening. The opening of The Lion King is so good that the rest of the movie is like. The opening is here. The rest of the movie is like here. It's still really good, but that opening is like that is just the way it just kind of constructed.
Yeah, and you see like animation.
It's so cinematic.
Really before, like these animals, like as close to being like real animals, and they're just walking slowly toward Pride Rock, and the music is building and building and building. Yeah, incredible.
I think if there was a flaw to The Lion King is the tone, because you have like at least in the first half hour or so they really try to make it serious, like about Simba kind of learning that from his father, and then his father, and then they have like the father's brother.
Scar.
What's his name? Scar. I was about to say Jafar. It's another movie, but yeah, Scar, and then like Simba's father dies, and oh my god, like that's really some dramatic stuff right there. And then the movie completely shifts into comedy. I mean, it kind of has to because it's a kids' movie, but that shift is really, really drastic, and really noticeable. And then all of a sudden, it sort of becomes like this light comedy, and it just feels good to be king. And you're just like, all right, this is kind of cool. The first half hour was fucking awesome. This is kind of cool, but yes, that was what. But overall, The Lion King is still pretty damn great. But what I was saying is that Disney had that incredible run with Frozen. My problem with it is that there's some things that were really noticeable about the way it was constructed. Like I really appreciated it thematically. I like the songs because I think the movie has a good message about about sisters getting along together and all that stuff, and not really being about finding your your prince or whatever.
Point, and I thought that was really cool that they were able to do that. Not make it like every other Disney movie that you've ever seen, like a fairy tale where it's all about finding a man.
Right.
Here it's like your family is important too. Your sister, that bond is important.
But that Prince is what really kind of made me kind of turn against the movie a little bit was that Prince's about face towards the end. Where he's like, I'm actually evil all along. They really didn't. I watched it again, and I'm like, I'm not really seeing this signs of evilness in the beginning. It really is just about face, and it comes at a very convenient moment in the movie. You know what I mean? It just kind of I didn't feel like they did enough. Didn't do a good enough job setting that up. You know what I mean?
What's the other? Not to completely shift focus here.
No,
but didn't. I didn't see this one, but one of Disney's earlier animated from their animation studio, the computer animated, the Rapunzel movie. That one seems to have, Tangled. That seems to have a lot of a pretty strong following. Have you seen that one?
No. At the time, Disney, that part of Disney's animation. I remember Tangled getting good reviews, but I wasn't I gotta see this. I should pay attention to this. I have seen parts of Wreck-It Ralph, and that looked like a pretty fun movie. But when I was getting at before about animated movies in general that aren't Pixar that impressed me, I gotta say I watched this not so long, maybe a year ago, maybe a little while ago. I watched parts of it at least. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it reminded me. I didn't really need to watch the rest of it. I just reminded me that was Rango. With the Johnny Depp, that's probably the best movie. That's probably the best movie Johnny Depp's been in a while, and it's an animated movie. The animation of that is insane. The desert, really the western aspects of it, and Johnny Depp, the main character, just that look. Yeah, I think Rango is pretty far out. I think it's a pretty trippy animated film.
Or something kind of ridiculous.
It is. It does kind of have that element to it. Yeah. Rango is pretty damn awesome. I gotta say, it's probably my favorite.
Who made that? What studio made that?
Well, I know the director was Gore Verbinski, who did the original Pirates of the Caribbean. As far as studios go, that's a good question. I don't think it was DreamWorks, but it might have been Fox.
think maybe
I don't know.
Rango. Find out real quick.
Let's find out together. I'm Googling it. You're Googling it. Googling it together.
It was...
But yeah, that was Gore Verbinski.
Paramount.
Really great film.
Nickelodeon.
Oh, Nickelodeon GK Films.
Nickelodeon and Paramount Pictures.
Yeah, I almost want to see it again. Now that I mention it, I kind of wish I watched the whole thing. I was watching part of it. I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty awesome. But then I turned it. I changed the channel because I didn't really feel like watching at that point. Yeah. But yeah, I really liked it. Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune thought it was completely soulless, but that's bullshit. But I was just scrolling down the Wikipedia page. But and the thing is, that's probably like Gore Verbinski's last great movie since Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, that movie was pretty. I remember I saw that in theaters too because I thought this looks like a pretty interesting movie, and I saw it and I was. I feel like I appreciate it more than the kids in the theater. You know what I mean? It had like a really great Western vibe to it, and like you said, it had like a fear and loathing, like weirdness to it too. So yeah, I would definitely say that. That's gotta be the best. Like, I think that's the best 5 years at least. That's like the best non-Pixar movie. That's not. I don't really follow. The Japanese. What's his face?
Miyamoto. No, that's the.
Yeah. Miyazaki, isn't it?
Yeah, Miyamoto's the Nintendo.
I've been meaning to. I've been meaning to watch, Spirited Away and all that stuff, but I heard really good things about that. But I'm just not really into that animation style, so I just can't really get into it. But
going back to the last 5 years, I'm looking at what DreamWorks has been up to, and I did enjoy Kung Fu Panda, but that's more than 5 years ago. And How to Train Your Dragon was cool. But yeah,
I've heard. I haven't really seen them.
I know Kung Fu Panda's sequel, Puss in Boots, which is Shrek World. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. And then this last one they did, Home, with like the alien story. The guy from is it Big Bang Theory, and Rihanna is in it too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That kind of just came and went. It's got a 46% Rotten Tomato score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the other big. Animated non-Pixar animated movie. It's been the Despicable Me movies, the Minions.
Yeah, right. Who's responsible for those?
I think Universal.
I thought that was but yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not.
No, Universal Illumination Entertainment. Yeah, and I didn't watch the sequel to Despicable Me. I heard it's superior to the first one, but I didn't really like the first one that much. I thought it was kind of like. I since then though, I kind of get Minions now. I do feel that people kind of are weirdly hateful towards Minions. I mean, they are what they are. That's my opinion. That's my feeling. I'm like, but they're like the slapstick. They have that slapstick thing going on. I get it. I mean, I don't love Minions, but I get what they are, and I get why kids love them. Sure. I mean, they seem so lovable. And I've been on the Minions ride in Universal Studios Hollywood, where I became a Minion for a brief period. And unfortunately, at the end of the ride, I was no longer a Minion, which made me very upset. But it really is. But what do you? Have you seen those movies?
Despicable Me, yes. I thought the original was superior to the sequel.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it.
The sequel was okay, but I like the first one. I'm not going to see Minions.
Me neither. Yeah. I will see Good Dinosaur, but other than that, I don't really need to see any animated. That's like I've met my animated quota for the year already, and I'll see Good Dinosaur. Big Hero 6 was another one that came out last year at Disney, which I did not like. No. I flat out did not like. I liked Frozen, and that was like really raved about. I did not like Big Hero 6 at all.
What's your big problem with
that? It wasn't much of a story to it. It was just kind of like the whole like being friends with the robot story. It's just been it's been done so many times, and I didn't think they did anything really creative or new or interesting about it. And I felt like the whole thing about his brother dying. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing about his brother dying and like. you think the villain's the one guy, but turns out the other guy. It takes so long for them to reveal who the villain is, you know, who's really cooking up these schemes. And I just stopped. I didn't care anymore. I just didn't care about like who the villain was or what the story was. And at the end, it became like another superhero team up movie. You know, I mean, it's co-produced by Marvel, so you can expect that. Yeah. But I don't know. I just wasn't impressed by it at all. I really wasn't impressed by anything about it. And then they had a fucking Fall Out Boy song come on. I believe it was Fall Out Boy. Yeah, in my mind, I was watching on TV, so I couldn't really walk out. But I forget what Fall Out Boy song it was. But I don't remember. I was like, fuck no. And I know that Fall Out Boy, I guess, like, I don't know. Do they have more respect now? I guess. I just can't stand the lead singer's voice. It's nails on a chalkboard to me. I'm stumped by what's so great about him. You know, and that I've heard that song in on the radio. Remember me for a century. It's like, are you trying to sound annoying? Yeah. Are you trying to sound like the most annoying singer on the planet right now? Because like, remember me for a century. You heard that song, right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, that's an unavoidable song. And it's so weird because Fall Out Boy, when they first came out, they had like a very clear fan base, you know, and they were like, they were cool.
Kind of,
like people made fun of them because like they were like an emo band or whatever, but like they had a strong following, and it wasn't like they were just trying to make popular music. And now it's like
it was around like they were a band that was kind of like, all right, they exist. I'm fine with it. Yeah. But then it was around like dance.
I think that was pretty close to the beginning, Ken.
Was it?
Yeah.
Christina's dance. She likes Fall Out Boy. Was that the beginning? Okay, I guess I always hated them.
I think that was like when they came on the scene.
I mean, I can kind of tolerate. We're going down, a little around. We're going down swinging.
That's yours, Kenny Guidry, singing the hits. Fall Out Boy's
But then there's a part though in that song. There's a breakdown, right? Yeah. Where it's like, we're going down, a little around. Sugar, we're going. The echoey thing. I'm like, oh no, please stop the song. Stop it at like 2.5 minutes, and I'm gonna break the song. But they added like another 2 minutes to it, and I'm like, oh god, his voice. That's the thing. I think he likes his voice too much. He really loves his voice.
I'm sure he does.
It's just like, that's what it seems like, because he uses that a lot, like that extra vocal, like the extra vocal tracks and all that stuff. He uses it so much, and I'm just like, I just want to kill. Like, what was the other one? Like this is an orange race. Oh my god! Remember that commercial that came out? That was like there was a commercial with Fall Out Boy songs being used, and this guy's in the gym, and he's like, "Oh man, you gotta listen to this new Fall Out Boy song. It gets me pumped." Oh, like he's all muscle bound. He's listening to Fall Out Boy in the gym. Like, really?
Is it a serious commercial?
I mean, like it's I can't remember. It was like for a phone, I think. Okay. Where he can like.
But it used the actual Fall Out Boy song in the ad.
Yeah, I think it was saying a scene. This is an arms race, and they're like, "Yo, dude, you gotta listen to this. You gotta listen." Oh my god, dude! Can you imagine? Like, no, I'm not your friend anymore. Get away! I want to I want to get just get away from you. It's insane. But yeah,
I looked it up though. Like all the songs that you're singing, like the one that you didn't like, Dance, I guess. That's all from that first. Not their first album, but the first big album that they had, called From Under the
Dance with Boyd apart to let dance. And that was in, I think, Madden NFL 2006.
Yeah, probably.
The fucking worst. Like, I like...
You're right, that was one with McDonald on the cover, right?
Yeah, I used to love playing Madden. I had to turn on the volume because that song kept going, dance, dance. And he says it at the end, right? That's the end. That's how it ends. Like dance, dance.
Yes.
Dance, dance.
Yeah, that's it. That's how they call
Dance, dance. Dance, dance. And you're like, what the fuck did I just listen to? And the thing is, musically, that song's okay, kind of okay. It's
just the vocals that you can't stand.
I can't stand it. But you know what? I feel like they've really regressed. I think they have regressed musically since then. They kind of they've kind of moved away. And I'm sorry, this is a Fall Out Boy podcast, but
yeah, really. How did we get from Inside Out to Pixar to Disney to other studios and now Fall Out Boy?
Disney used Fall Out Boy in this movie, Pick Hero 6, so you know what?
Oh, that's
whatever.
Right. That's right.
But
they kind of turned into a rant.
They kind of, and like, back me up on this if you want to. You can disagree with me too. I don't know if you're a big Fall Out Boy fan. No. If you're a big Fall Out Boy fan, fine. And I think this is pretty funny, so whatever. But they kind of moved, like, changed their genre, because I've listened to their, like, radio over the course of time, and I can't remember what the song was, but like for the last couple of years, like they've just been ripping off like a pop song and making it their own. That's like what they've been doing for the past couple of years.
They took a break for a couple of years, and like the band, like people thought they were done, I guess, and then they came back, and now they're this band.
Well, wait, what? No, but no, that was it was like I can't remember what I can't even. I don't know why I want to listen to it just to prove my point. But there is a song, and I hate their fucking song titles. I'm like a lawyer. I'm like a lawyer with the. Fuck you, dude. A little less 16 candles, a little more touch me. That's like Panic at the Disco, right?
Well, they did it before Panic did it.
Yeah. Oh. I'm sorry. Whoa.
But no, I'm saying like they're the ones that are like.
I know.
If you're gonna blame somebody, blame Fall Out.
Yeah, no, I think, and I don't hate this band as much, but Brand New. I think that was just a trend in emo music back then.
That's a band that I didn't really listen to very much.
Was it My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark? Light 'Em Up. That was the song.
What you did in the dark. So light 'em up. That's when they came back, right? I think you like Fall Out Boy. Do you like Fall Out Boy? No.
A little bit.
Back then I did a little bit, but now look, I don't really. I'm not.
Look, I don't really care. Like with music, I'm not as like passionate about like what people like.
It's so bad.
What was that?
That's the Light 'Em Up. You're on fire. So light 'em up.
Okay, I have to find. Was that the song?
It's called My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark. Light 'Em Up. That's from this last album that came out called Save Rock and Roll.
I'm listening to it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, what the fuck? This song is okay. That's the thing. They just completely moved away from like their original rock sound. And the same thing with their newest album with Centuries. It begins with that one song that they sample, right? What was it? Do 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 do. Tom's Diner by Suzanne Vega, I guess. I'm looking at the Wikipedia, and now when I'm listening to the radio, right, we listen to like a pop radio or like something. They don't necessarily always play new songs, and like you hear like do 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 do. I'm like, oh, I haven't listened to this song in a while, and it becomes Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, like, no, you know what I mean?
I was looking forward to that. Yeah.
They make like it's such a weird song because like they incorporate that part, but it's not necessary for the rest of the song. The rest of the song doesn't really follow that like melody. Really, it kind of does.
Have I heard? I'm gonna play a little bit of this.
And like,
oh, that's the memory.
Yes. Yeah, but like there's the breakdown before the chorus where it goes and he goes memory for centuries. Hey, memory. Remember me from centuries. It's like Beak, or is it Beaker from the Muppets?
I think that was.
That's what it sounds like.
Ken,
that's my
break. Your president speaking, and we've had our fair share of you singing "Fall Out Boy." Now I'm from Chicago. Those boys are from Chicago. Now you disrespecting them. You're disrespecting me.
Are they from Chicago?
Yes, they are.
That's it. That's. I always get embarrassed from like when I find out like an emo band from New Jersey. Like, oh god, they're from New Jersey. But I feel bad for Chicago. Yeah, that's kind of a shame. Well, but and I remember like Patrick Stump, like just the look. He wears like a stupid hat. Like, why does he wear that hat? Like, what does he do? Like, oh, now he wears a fedora. But he used to wear like the stupid like
trucker hat.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
They were cool, man.
I don't get it. I guess I never got them. You know. Well, I'm watching the Good Dinosaur trailer. I was watching it while you were. It looks pretty good. We'll see how this turns out.
I've been reading some complaints about the look of the dinosaur.
Yeah,
the cartoony look, even though like they live in this super photorealistic world.
Mm-hmm.
But like I guess that's kind of what Finding Nemo is. You know, cartoony characters in a really good-looking world. Ratatouille, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just their bread and butter.
Yeah, I guess so. I am kind of interested in seeing because the trailer kind of takes like a serious tone. The full trailer. Like, I think I don't know who sings the song. Not to get into that whole thing again, but yeah, I think that it looks okay. I'm definitely gonna go see it. But overall, I think that Pixar has re-raised the bar for themselves with Inside Out, and I think it's going to wind up being one of the better films, one of the best films of the year, in my opinion. And
I think that's a good note to fall on as we end the show. Like, just their return to their form. They're making the movies kind of like the ones that they used to make, and they're surprising their audience again. You know, I was wowed, and it's always nice to be wowed.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Justin, what do you plan on seeing next? I wanna kind of like know what we're gonna be doing here. You know what I mean? Like get a
Trainwreck.
Trainwreck. Is that you're gonna do? Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, because love Judd Apatow, especially the 40-Year-Old Virgin is like a pretty prominent movie-going experience for me. Like remembering seeing that and just like laughing harder than like that was kind of like the comedy renaissance for me for like our time. I don't want to like really give him that too much praise, but I think he was doing something that not too many others were doing with regards to comedy. Because before him, it was like the Farrelly Brothers were big, and kind of a lot of comedy movies have just gotten kind of realistic. And he was one of the guys who said, the world is funny enough. Like people and they're what makes them weird, and just. That's funny enough. We don't have to like create these just off the wall concepts for movies. So I'm a big Judd Apatow fan, and I'm gonna see Trainwreck at my earliest opportunity. I know you've already seen it, right?
Yeah, I already saw Trainwreck, so it'll be interesting to have a it'd be interesting, yeah. Like you said, we talked about before with me. It'd be nice to talk about like a straight up comedy. Because I don't think we've actually ever done that. I mean, unless you count Inside Out, which not really. That's more of an animated movie. I mean, it is an animated movie, but like it's really more of that angle. So yeah, and I liked a lot of things I liked about it. A lot of things that I wasn't too thrilled with. So it'll be interesting. It'll definitely be an interesting discussion. So
I'm looking forward to having that.
And it'll be interesting, kind of like tying it in with Judd Apatow's other work, other films, and
we kind of do what we do with Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
Regards to Apatow.
Yeah, because this is his fifth movie, so I think
we can rank them.
The fifth movie is kind of like a good point to like really assess like at least the first aspect of a director's career. So
he not done a movie since Funny People?
No, he did This Is 40 in between there.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that'll definitely be an interesting discussion. Maybe we can shoehorn because the fall movies are coming up, and a lot of interesting trailers came out lately. So maybe we'll try to like shoehorn that into
things to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And Yeah. And if you see any of those, I don't know if it'd be really cool to talk about Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. If you ever get to see that at some point.
And It Follows also, right?
What's that?
It Follows.
It Follows. Yeah. In fact, if you see It Follows first, we can just put that in the next thing or whatever. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make it a point to see how I can, because those movies are, I think, available now. I know It Follows is available on Blu-ray. Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, I don't know.
I think it's still in theaters. I think it's been expanding. I don't know how many theaters it's been expanding to, but yeah. Obviously see Trainwreck first, I guess, and then we'll work from there. And then we'll talk about the fall movies. You know, I thought the Revenant looked interesting, and we talked about that earlier in the year, so it'll be interesting to talk about how it looks trailer wise, and then Joy, David Russell's Joy, which I'm like I'm not quite hyping about that. I'm not quite feeling it for some reason.
Yeah, I'm there with you. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to talk about. That's what we'll have to look forward to. So this has been another classic, amazing episode of
the mind-blowing
episode of The Long Take. For Justin Moore, speaking for him, because that's what I like to do. I like to speak for you. I'm Ken Guidry. Alright, and you can speak too.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening. And
you have listened
with another episode of The Long Take.
Until then. Long Take. Take it easy, brothers and sisters.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, Milwaukee. We got a big fan base in Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah.
Go Brewers!